And
Chair.
welcome to our May 19 Finance Committee meeting. I'm Vince Cox, your committee chair. I represent Pinellas County. And I'd also like to introduce our other members here today. We have two missing, Richard Bennett and Keith Sabille won't be with us today also, but we still have a quorum, so we'll be all right. To my left is John Schulman from St. Petersburg, Danny Saraki on the end there, and then we have the inimitable Jeff Gow on the right from Dunedin. We want to welcome everyone joining us on Zoom as well. Clarissa, can you tell me if there are any members of the public in the lobby who wish to speak?
There are no public comments in the lobby.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to our action items, and the first will be to approve the April 21st minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
So moved. We have a second with Mr. Gow. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Is Bonnie with us?
Al's there.
Yep, there's Al.
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, good. Do we, why don't we just go ahead and begin with this presentation? And, you know, with the upcoming launch of our new Access Paratransit, a new state-of-the-art upgrade to our software is necessary. It's actually essential to its success. Bonnie, could you go ahead with the presentation, please?
Awesome. Thank you, Chair Cox. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Finance Committee. I'm very excited to be back here to recommend purchasing this final piece of our transformation strategy to change our old paratransit program into a better, more comprehensive, and most importantly, sustainable full mobility program. This is the software that we'll be using to manage the entire mobility program. If we could go to the next slide, please. And then, yeah, thank you. This morning, I'm asking you to recommend to the Psta board the purchase of the software solution from Spare Labs Incorporated out of Vancouver, British Columbia, at a total cost not to exceed $1.6 million. I'll give you some background about the software, and then our highly motivated Al Burns will talk to you about the procurement process. Next slide, please. So as Chair Cox knows, the entire world of our paratransit services required under the Americans with Disabilities Act is changing in great ways for our customers. So up until 3 years ago, Psta had no in-house software. We just had a homegrown Microsoft Access database to keep track of our 11,000 Pinellas County residents we had approved to use the Care Ride services. Now we're using multiple software systems for different aspects of our programs. Sometimes that makes things a little bit complicated. So first, Care Ride is currently using a basic scheduling software that schedules their drivers and vehicles to get customers to their doctor's appointments and other destinations on time. In-house, Psta has two separate software programs, one to keep track of eligible riders and one that tracks riders through the eligibility process. We've also been working with a small startup software company for the past few years to dispatch our mobility on-demand trips, but our program has really outgrown what that software can do for us. So we do have a lot that we're using currently that are doing different, like I said, multiple aspects of our mobility program. We've implemented our new eligibility process and have new contracting partners. We're also working on standing up our new reservation center, and so this software will help us manage our growing programs and all aspects of those programs. Next slide, please. So this spring, as we create the new Psta Access program, our goal is to build a comprehensive software package that would have all aspects of the paratransit process. I told the vendors, my team, and Al Burns that I was really looking for the big enchilada. So I call this software the big enchilada because I'm looking for a software that can do everything we need from start to finish. And I'll go over each module, each ingredient of the enchilada in the next few slides. There's a lot of dispatching software out there. There's separate eligibility management systems, and some providers like Lyft want us to only use their separate proprietary software. So our customer service agents would have to toggle between multiple screens based on the provider. But we're really looking for something, like I'm saying, comprehensive that can do everything. Next slide, please. So to begin our enchilada making process, the way that I've been thinking about it is we start with the tortilla. I'm calling that the client database. We really need a software that keeps track of the 11,000 residents eligible for access, what conditions would allow them to ride the bus, how many trips they take on each service, their phone number, address, everything we need to know about the clients that are eligible for the program. So then I consider the reservation, scheduling, and dispatching module to be the meat of the software. This is where the majority of the complexity of the software comes in, and we need to take reservations for and efficiently schedule and dispatch over 1,000 trips on traditional paratransit each day. So this is what most companies that make this type of software focus on, since scheduling and efficiency are very important. This is a very important module. I like that. So that's why I'm calling it the meat, the scheduling and dispatching and the intaking of reservations for advanced paratransit reservations. Next slide, please. So the next two modules that I'll mention, MOD trip dispatching and eligibility tracking, what I'm calling the sauce and the cheese, are very important to an enchilada and to our mobility process, but not all traditional paratransit software companies include these as part of what they offer. So as I mentioned, most companies focus on the scheduling and dispatching of pre-scheduled trips, but we also need a software to dispatch the over 300 mobility on-demand trips daily with our on-demand partners on a real-time basis. We also want our software to track riders through the eligibility process, tracking their application request and the receipt, and scheduling them for their mobility consultations. We're hoping the software will also automatically prepare letters for our customers telling them that they're eligible, what services they're eligible for, and then another letter for when they have to recertify. Next slide, please. And finally, we need some awesome toppings on the big enchilada. We want a software system that will text customers to remind them of their reservations and let them know that their ride is on their way and should be there within 10 minutes to pick them up, just like the Domino's Pizza app does. Our customers have never really gotten something like that, and I know they'll really appreciate it. In the future, we're also looking to develop a phone app for customers to request rides directly rather than calling our reservation agents. This will keep the phone lines from filling up and is the perfect cilantro to top off our enchilada. So I'm very excited that we've selected Spare Labs as our chef and look forward to working with them. And now I'll pass it over to Al Burns.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Bonnie. Sorry, I just had to get myself squared away. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm glad I had breakfast this morning, Commissioner Cox and board members, because I'm kind of hungry right now. I'm too pleased with the selection process we went through and the outcome of us recommending Spare Labs as our software partner. The process that we went through, Chair Cox and the Finance Committee, was extremely thorough and included some really important steps that I want to highlight. Rather than just taking the software company's word for their system could handle the day-to-day volume of PSTA's trips, we made them show us. We sent them PSTA's actual data from the recent day, and they used their software program to schedule all the rides. We then analyzed how efficient their manifest trips was. Second, this step proved to be significant, and in the final decision that was a process to conduct detailed interviews with at least 3 of the other customers of other transit systems that the firms have provided us. In the end, 2 companies, Going and Transware, were deemed technically unacceptable. EcoLane scored outside the competitive range. And then after presentation, the final ranking has Spare Labs as the top ranked firm. This morning, I'm extremely motivated and excited to introduce the leaders of Spare Labs, Mr. Christopher. Christopher, if you could share your screen, please. If you could show yourself.
Hey guys, good morning.
Would you like to make any remarks, Christopher?
Yeah, for sure. I think, thanks everyone. I think this is the first time that we've been seeing this analogy with the analogy of the big enchilada. So we're very proud to be the creators of this big enchilada of the PSTA, and super excited to be part of this next evolution of the paratransit service.
It's very,
Commissioner Cox said this morning, the sustainability aspect of this procurement is financial. Both capital and operating funds will be used to support the upfront costs of the software and ongoing licensing fees. The total cost of Spare Labs is within PSTA's budget and is planned for purchase. Community, by providing a comprehensive software solution combining all PSTA mobility modes, this purchase will significantly improve customer service by PSTA and save money over time by providing the most efficient and best option tailored to each customer. As Bonnie said in the beginning of the presentation, the recommendation this morning is recommend approval of a 5-year contract with 1 5-year renewal for PSTA's Access Paratransit software with Spare Labs Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $1,600,000, which includes a 10% contingency, and recommend authorizing the CEO to exercise the 5 1-year options. If there are any questions, Bonnie or I will be more than happy to answer.
one, okay, gotcha. No questions? Commissioner Shulman? Good. Oh, yeah. That one, right?
Yes, all right, thank you. And thank you to Rachel for giving me a pen so I could write down my half dozen questions. Al, I appreciate that you mentioned that you guys tested the software with real data. That was actually one of my first questions. So the software's been in existence. We're not a beta test for this software, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Shulman. Not only did we provide them data and they performed the manifest to our approval, we also reached out to 3 other transit agencies where their current software is being utilized.
And with the experience of the 3 other transit agencies, has there been any, have there been system issues that could cause a disruption, or do we have a contingency plan for disruption if there's a software issue?
Well, I'd like to speak on the reference part. To be quite frank with you, Commissioner Shulman, that's the thing that took Spare Labs over the top. Their references were impeccable, and their customer service was outstanding. Unlike some of their competitors that didn't have as favorable reviews, Spare Labs reviews were very, very outstanding. I'll let Bonnie elaborate on the next part as far as contingency and et cetera.
Yeah, so I think, all software companies, every reference that we looked at we did ask a question about, have there been any outages and how did the software company respond? And I think all companies did have, a little bit of an issue. I think we did see with the references from Spare that things were back up and running within 10 to 20 minutes. So I thought that was a really good sign. We've had outages here with our different softwares. I think it's just something we have to roll with. I know CareRide has that with TranRail right now. As long as we can keep that the response time low with getting everything back up and running, I think we're good to go.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Whenever I hear comprehensive and integrated in software, I instantly think, well, what happens when it doesn't work?
Yeah.
And so I appreciate the due diligence that you guys have already done. Bonnie, you had mentioned that a lot of the functions that we're currently doing, like sending out letters and things like that, are automated in this new software. Do we have any idea of what the staff time savings? Have we looked at what that would be?
So I mean, there definitely would be staff time savings. I have not looked at, exactly what that time savings would be, but right now it is a bit of a challenge. I think just, there's a lot of room for error. So there would be some staff time savings, but also just the reduction of errors as we need to put different information into one software than another. And then yet again, sometimes it copy and paste into a third. If we're able to input all of that information one time and then just click a button as they join different programs, I think we'd see reduction in staff time and reduction in errors.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, just a couple more.
Sure.
You mentioned that we might create our own app for access. Does this software have the ability to integrate with like the transit app or other apps that are out there already that we're using to, again, try to give everyone one access point versus still having multiple access points?
Yeah, so what I'll say is that Spare is very open. They have open APIs, and they are looking to integrate with whoever they can integrate, or whoever's willing to integrate with them. So I think that's another benefit with choosing Spare, that they're looking to be innovative and open to doing those things.
And two questions. Will the new system link to the Flamingo fares for payment? So, riders that have Flamingo fares accounts will automatically talk to one another?
So I don't think we have that set up, or have that plan to set up just yet. But again, I think if Flamingo, Init, and Bitemark are willing to work with us, or work with Spare, things are open. We can explore those options.
Okay, so it might be, not currently. Okay. And the last one, just, this one might be for Al, was just, you mentioned that the cost is coming from capital and operating. Do you have the breakdown for what part of this contract amount is capital versus operating expenses?
Before we move on to the next action item, I'll be able to provide that to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Saraki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, you answered most of my questions, but I do have two more. The food made me hungry.
Me too.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll talk to Al about that. He'll fix you up.
All right, and the other question I have is, you mentioned, Al, you mentioned that other transit authorities as references. Can you name just one or two for me, please?
I can name
Sure.
one that we did look at for Spare Labs. That was Green Bay, Wisconsin, the transit agency there. Sorry, I don't remember the name.
That's fine,
Al,
that's
do you
fine.
want-
And they gave you a reference saying that the software works great for them.
Yes, 10 out of 10. So.
Wonderful. Okay, and the last question I have is, Brad, do you have any comments on this? I know you got here a little bit late, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, because this is a big ticket item.
It is a big ticket item.
No.
Chair would audio me. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Bonnie and Al. I apologize for the traffic. We need transit or better transit options, I think.
Should have used the right lane.
To your questions, Commissioner Schulman, about ways and save money, the big way I think we'll be able to save money with this is we're going really to a modern paratransit scheduling system. One that Care Ride's system really has not been and they've been very successful and very efficient through other methods, but not through the software. This system will sort of batch optimize thousands of trips at the exact same time, with all the different vehicles to make sure we're saving providing the least cost operation we possibly can with the day's trips, with the scheduled trips. In addition to, as Bonnie said, the toppings on the enchilada, all the other new customer features, like sending a text that says your ride's gonna be there in 10 minutes. That is enormously beneficial to the customer, especially one with an impairment who takes maybe a while to get outside, Bonnie has been pitching for a long time about saving money and staff time, to your point, about getting that app. If we could have 10 or 15% of the customers who can use a phone and use an app, probably not our 90-year-olds so much, but the others, that would save people in the phone room. That would reduce the growing number of phone calls that we're getting, to reserve every ride by a phone. If we can get some of those people moving on to the app. I don't know, I think we did reference the Flamingo in the RFP as a future position. I mean, essentially the idea would be that there would be a virtual wallet, just like Flamingo. We could almost just call it Flamingo, even if it was its own separate thing. To Commissioner Saraki's point, I think, and this is a compliment to Spare Labs there, this is a relatively smaller company, or a new upstart tech company that has gotten into this paratransit space. They've done some great things with the micro transit or sort of new mobility things in Dallas and in Green, and then they have expanded into the paratransit scheduling. They really kind of wowed us with their software and how it was able to handle our technology. I mean, Green Bay, Wisconsin is not nearly as large as Pinellas. So it is somewhat of I would say a risk but they really have, as Al and Bonnie said, fantastic references, great customer service. In my mind, I think they're a great partner for us as we grow this system, because we're kind of on the cutting edge anyway, melding all these other providers together. Commissioner Schulman, you said it exactly right. I mean, it strikes fear in my bones talking about integration. Uber and Lyft, Bonnie is up late at night because they're all based on the West Coast, dealing with the craziness of Uber and Lyft. They are great companies, I guess, and the worst companies. And those are our partners, and those are who are providing the trips. A lot of the trips, we've got lots of other partners as well. Integrating with all of them is going to be the real challenge for this software. And that's not going to be easy. No, we know that. But I'm looking forward. I'm really impressed with, sorry, I forget his name, Mr. Spare. He is up at 6 o'clock in the morning to join us, so I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Do we have any more questions from this committee?
I think Al has a
Commissioner Cox, I just wanted to take the time to answer Commissioner Schulman's question about the fiscal impact portion. This should all be capital, unlike normal software purchases. This is an ongoing operation cost because it's in the cloud. So all of this should be federally funded up front, and ongoing costs will be included in our operating budget for years 6 through 10, if we exercise the option. Also, Commissioner, I also want to commend Spare Labs for their DBE participation. They're using Vista Communications, and their contract is valued at approximately $96,000, and also Apex Digital, whose contract value is approximately $42,000. Both of the DBEs are solid DBEs, and we have one as a prime contractor on a marketing contract, and one as a subcontractor on the Sunrunner project.
Go ahead.
Al, I appreciate that, but I'm not sure, either I didn't follow or it wasn't there. So you said the upfront costs were funded through federal grant dollars?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is that total?
Let me get it right in front of me.
Maybe Debbie.
Sorry, sir. So the upfront cost, the base of this project is $785,000. That includes $20,000 for implementation, $509,000 for the trips, and licensing, and $65,000 for support, for a total of $785,000. The option, years 6 through 10, is approximately $656,000.
Okay, so,
So the
go ahead.
So the base, $785,000 will be, funded through capital funds.
And,
I'm sorry, Commissioner, but I'd like to just clarify further. Because this is in the cloud, it's a subscription service, which qualifies under FTA funding. Where previously, as Al had mentioned, if we were to buy a software package and download it on our servers, we would have that one-time large upfront cost. And then we'd pay every year probably a good size amount of money for patches, updates, et cetera. Because this is in the cloud, we won't have that. So essentially, unless there's some small pieces to this, it should be for all years, the first 5 years and after that, capital funded from FTA.
okay, and so the 1.6 million contract is for potentially the full 10 years, not the first 5 with options after that.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. And I make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a question or two, please. And we'll get to that. Yeah, please. Thank you. One question I have is, our partner from Vancouver, and like Mr. Miller said, it's 6 in the morning there. Now, a lot of our traffic, our paratransit traffic starts very early here, like roughly 5 in the morning, because we do a great deal of dialysis clients and so on and so forth. So that'll be 2 a.m. in Vancouver time, real time. So I'm certain that you have 24-hour access to service. Say there's something goes wrong, and then the dispatcher, whoever's on duty there, can contact your company at 2 in the morning. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
We actually operate services in Europe and in Japan, so
Okay.
we are already used to a 24/7
Wonderful.
operating time.
That's wonderful. And then I have, this question would be for Bonnie. In the eligibility module, sorry. I just got a frog in my throat. Yeah, good idea. Excuse me one moment. I have a hard time opening this. Thank you. Bonnie, the eligibility module, can you enlighten me a little bit on this part of it? I know we've made extreme jumps in how we're doing eligibility for paratransit now, and vast improvements over what we used to do. And just tell me, actually, how does that work briefly? Just tell me, how does it work? Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So when we say eligibility module, lots of software companies will take that to mean just like a paratransit database, and you check the boxes of which program that someone is eligible for. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I mean. Right now we're using a homegrown database, like I mentioned early on in my presentation, that tracks the application process. So when somebody requests an application, we put in their name, their mailing address, date of birth. So it stores the client information. But then it also tracks when we sent out the application for the client to fill out. Then it'll track when we received it, how complete the application was, if there was anything missing, if we contacted the applicant. Then it will track, did they call and request a mobility consultation? When did we schedule that consultation for? Was the consultation completed, or were they a no-show? Do we have any questions with their medical verification? The module also stores their completed paper application, and it stores our mobility consultation notes that the mobility team uses when they do the consultation. Then it also stores, the final outcome. When was the decision made? What was the decision? How many, the eligibility or the term of their eligibility? And then when did we send them a letter, letting them know that they're eligible? So it sounds like, it sounds both not complicated and a little bit complicated. So we need something that can do those basic things and not just hold their name and date of birth, address, and what programs they're eligible.
Understood.
You know, and let me just add, one neat feature by having it integrated into the software, unlike today, is we are starting to do what are called conditional eligibility. Maybe you can't go out at night, or there's some kind of thing that you, or Bonnie's team can say, well, we think you should take about 20 paratransit, very expensive rides a month to your doctor's appointments, but when you want to go to Publix, there's a bus route right there. So we'll set you up for 20. And then there's not really a way to track that except manually now. This system will tie every person in Bonnie's database to the rides. And then by vendor, by transportation provider. How many rides did they take on paratransit? How many did they take on mobility, with TNCs, et cetera?
Okay.
And you can kind of track and say, Mr. Saraki, you've done about 30 trips. You're way over your limit this month. Can we curtail that a bit?
And then also that would help, I would think, on an operator's time also, that they could look into that database and say, this is what we have. And one other question, Bonnie, too, and the final decision on eligibility is still under our purview, your department. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, this software would just, be what we use to track.
Okay.
We make the decision at the,
That'll
on
help to
the
automate,
mobility
and
team.
that's good news. One other, and this would be for our partner from Spark. Could you tell us your name again, please?
For sure. My name is Christopher Vick Hansen.
Chris, okay, good. I'll identify you as Chris and not Spark. The actual dispatch system itself, is it a system that does route learning as it goes, meaning traffic patterns, so on and so forth? Could you enlighten us a little bit on exactly how the dispatch system works? And you don't have to make it real broad, just kind of try to answer my question. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. So we use, to your question, we use a number of different mapping providers in order to basically generate what is the best route for these trips. And for every, the way we do it is that, for every, possible trip, we run hundreds of different combinations of what might be the best one, and then we rank them all in real time. This process only takes 0.3 seconds to do, like hundreds of different combinations of these. And then this system basically spits out the best result. And then over time, as it's operational, we can learn from, the system can learn from, what are the best routes in the area, what are the kind of traffic conditions. I mean, at the beginning, we will load all of those in as predictions, but after a little bit of a time, it will actually learn itself. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yes, it does. And one other important aspect then in my experience is that when a driver starts their shift, whatever, it could be 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m., or 9 a.m., and then they end their shift, and can your system have the ability to know where they start and then try to route them to the best of the whatever 8-hour shift it is towards where the base is or where the vehicle would be parked?
Absolutely. Imagine, Google Maps on your phone when you're driving around. That's how it works. So it has full turn-by-turn navigation.
Okay, and that answers that question too, and that's all I have. So.
I remake my motion to approve.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
okay, let me turn you on. There you go.
Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you all. Good job. Bonnie, Al, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time yesterday too, Al. And
You're welcome, sir.
we're in. Next, we have
Transportation uniform.
Yeah, Al, you're back on the Zoom here, so Let's go with some uniform.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Al Burns again. This action item here this morning is recommend approval of a one-year contract with 3 one-year options for uniforms with Centos for a total contract amount not to exceed $395,000, and recommend authorizing the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. As you're aware, and other committee members are aware, PSTA's Transportation Department houses all the frontline employees, supervisors, bus operators, and customer service representatives. These employees are required to wear company-issued uniforms while at work, which displays the company logo, name, and bolsters the company's image. A little bit about the breakdown of that. There are approximately 480 bus operators, 25 supervisors, and 20 customer service representatives each year that get uniform allowances. Per the labor agreement, each newly employed person at the Transportation Department is allotted 5 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, 1 jacket, a cap, etc. In your board packet, it gives you the dollar amount that each one of these categories are allotted annually to make sure that they are looking great in the public. The procurement, James Bradford asked me, we were having issues with our current contract. So James came to the procurement department, and with the help of Jeff Thompson, he told us to fix it. Our current contractor for the uniforms was notified that we would not be exercising the option. We decided to go with the internal vendor that maintenance has been using by the name of Centos. Centos has tremendous buying power, and this is what they do globally. While going through the pricing portion of the negotiations with Centos, I asked that quality be the number one thing. Don't worry about price. However, with Centos buying power, we were able to get over a 16% reduction overall on our costs for the uniforms. The fiscal impact of this will be funded using operating funds and is included in our budget projections. And once again, Mr. Chair, staff is asking for recommend approval of a one-year contract with 3 one-year options for uniforms with Centos for a total contract amount not to exceed $395,000, and recommend authorizing the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Do we have any questions on uniform? Go ahead, Mr. Gow.
Yeah, Al, did you happen to get any input from the employees, especially the ones in maintenance, on how they like the uniforms, how they feel, how it impacts their work?
Yes, we did. James Bradford and Jeff Thompson, they were adamant that the union have feedback on our selection. And there were some concerns, and those concerns, like this shirt doesn't feel as lightweight as my previous ones. And Centos has been really responsive in addressing those concerns and offering us replacements. So we have received feedback from the actual end user of the uniform.
And I can actually comment a little more. Actually, right outside my office, we have a clothes rack of samples from Centos. They had 2 representatives down here last week. They have different pants, polo shirts, button downs, jackets, even some of the beach Hawaiian shirts that we let our trolley drivers drive. Every time I go outside, there are several operators looking at the rack, and I've heard nothing but positive reviews. They're excited. What I understand with Centos, the turnaround time is going to be much quicker between when our operators, customer service reps, and our supervisors order and when they actually get it back. They have local representatives here that will do measuring and taking care of a lot of our needs. So this does seem like Al and his team, hit a home run here, and hopefully our folks will be very pleased. One point of clarification, I know Al said we purchased upwards of 480 bus operators and 25 supervisors, 20 customer service reps. Those numbers include new hires during the year. We don't actually have 480 bus operators, but we will have 6 to 8 classes of 10 to 15 people that all need to get new uniforms with an attrition rate of 4 to 8 operators a month that we lose through retirement or other ways. So we're constantly trying to replenish our fleet and make sure we have good numbers in terms of being fully staffed, so that we're always ordering clothes back and forth. That number does represent an annual allotment of uniform allowance by each bargaining employee. Like most transit agencies, currently our bus operators get $200 each to use for replenishing their uniforms. So do our customer service reps, our supervisors get a little bit more at $275. So that number represents the money they will spend with their allowance dollars upwards each year to replenish their uniforms.
Thank you very, very much. And one last question is, I'm fairly new to PSTA. Most of the contracts that I have seen are 3-year, 5-year with 1 to 2 year options. And it seems to me we have a relationship with this current vendor through maintenance. Is there a reason why it's a 1-year contract? Is that typical in the uniform aspect of transportation, or could we got a better deal if we went for a longer initial contract?
That's a very good observation, Commissioner Dow. Basically, the reason I set this up for a one year base and 3 1-year options is because that makes it what I call in procurement lingo coterminous with our existing contract with Cintas. So basically, we have the contract with maintenance for maintenance and facilities uniforms. We're piggybacking off of our own internal contract, and it just makes it align with our current contract that we have right now. It makes things easier from a contract management perspective for the agency.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, and I just have one, it's a question or a comment. Is Cintas not located very close? Do they have an office very close to our facility here? Or they used to? I know that. Do we know that?
I know it's in Pinellas County, sir, and I think it's relatively close, maybe about 20 minutes away. I don't know the actual physical address of the location, though, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Cartwright used Cintas for many years, and they were top notch. I can just tell you that. So, with this, do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schulman, a second by Mr. Saraki. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. This passes. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Mr. Bradford.
My pleasure.
Where are we now? Okay, we have now grant approvals, and we'll be listening to Ms. Debbie Leas and Pam Rates.
Thank you, Chair Cox. Today, if Bonnie was bringing the enchilada to the table, if I had to be a food group today with my various presentations, I'd be bringing a lot of greens to the table, a lot of money to the table. Today's action item is to approve our fiscal 22 agreements with Fdot, the Florida Department of Transportation. And we honestly are so grateful to FTA for all the opportunities, not FTA, I did this yesterday, Fdot, for all the funding opportunities for both operations and capital items that they provide to us. Fdot essentially provides to us currently some service development grant funding. And this is basically for increasing services for the riding public through new technologies, through new services and new routes. Today, we will see that they are providing funding for the Sunrunner BRT. Fdot also provides block grant funding that's used for operations for such things as fuel and for labor and other costs such as utilities. We also get urban corridor funding, and these relates to relieving congestions on our more urban routes that are very heavily used. And last, we are also getting some Fdot funding for Sunrunner BRT. If you take a look at the chart that's included in the action item, you will see that we are going up to $9,368,000. compared to last year where we were just about $6 million. The main difference is the funding that we'll be getting for the Sunrunner BRT operations through a service development grant of $2.7 million, and also some additional capital of $500,000 from Fdot for Sunrunner. This is on top of what we already are receiving of $9.5 million. Building relationships with the funding agencies is so key to us being successful in these arenas. And I have to give a shout out to Abhishek Dayal and to Cassandra Borchers for the work that they do with Fdot to help bring the money to the table. If you take a look at the chart, in case somebody has a question, you will see our block grant funding is going up. And then the other routes, which is our urban corridor funding, are going down slightly. The good news is we were at about $160,000. This past year it was brought up to $285,000, almost $286,000. And now they're cutting it back just a little bit, but we're still way, way ahead of where we used to be with the funding we received from Fdot. With that, I would like to see if there's any questions and seek your approval to accept these funding agreements.
Do we have any questions, committee? Comments?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Good job, Deb.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Appreciate it.
Bring the money.
You're very welcome.
Move on to the trolley operator safety barriers with Henry and Mr. Burns again. Henry?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have an action item before you today to approve a contract for the purchase of additional operator safety barriers for our new trolleys that we've received, and at a future phase, outfitting Jolly Trolley and Looper vehicles with the same barriers. So real quick, for those that may be new to the board, back in late 2019, the board approved the purchase of operator safety barriers or driver safety barriers. They've got a couple names here, really in response to the tragic situation that occurred across the bay in Hillsborough County with a heart operator. All of our buses have been outfitted with those safety barriers, and they actually went on to have a secondary benefit during the COVID-19 pandemic with our operators. They created a extra additional layer of protection during the social distancing situation at that time. As I mentioned before, these will be going on our 20 new trolleys. At the October 2019 board meeting, the barriers were included in the action item for the trolley project. So that'll be the federal piece of the funding. The future phase B, as we're calling it, with the potentially Jolly Trolley and Looper vehicles, that would be under an operational funding. And with that, I'll turn it over to Al just to give a quick brief on the solicitation, and then we'll come back with some additional information and take questions.
Thank you, Henry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So in April, we released an IFB, invitation for bid, and it was in compliance with procurement policies. It was posted on Psta's website. It included all the state and federal clauses that are required for federal funding. In May, a couple of weeks ago, we received 2 bids, one from NFI and one from Power Manufacturing. After a responsibility check, it was determined that Power Manufacturing has the capacity to perform the work and are therefore eligible for award. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a side comment that Power Manufacturing, they are the actual OEM or the manufacturer of these barriers. So it's not like we're getting them from somebody's source, buying them from Power Manufacturing. We're going straight from the source. The fiscal impact of this is the combination of federal and operating dollars. And as Henry stated, what we're asking for is recommend approval of a contract for the purchase of operation trolley barriers from Power Manufacturing for a total amount not to exceed $180,000. Back to you, Henry.
The only thing I'll add to that is each barrier costs approximately $4,500. It includes the design of those barriers, it includes the barrier itself, and it includes the installation of the barrier into the vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions from our committee here? I just have one question. Do we have these now, Henry? Do we have the barriers on property here yet?
We have barriers, sir, on all of our transit buses.
Right. Well, I mean,
These would be new. We'd have to buy.
Yes, these would be new.
okay.
This is the action item to approve the contract to purchase the barriers for the new trolley buses.
Okay. And how long would delivery take, do you know, ballpark?
I believe it would probably take 4 weeks to manufacture and deliver. And because it's only 20 vehicles, it should take approximately a week and a half to install.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Mr. Shulman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. How many barriers are we expecting to buy with this contract?
It includes a total of 40 barriers, 20 for PSTA trolleys, 5 for looper, and 15 for Jolly trolley. So our piece would be phase 1, and then phase 2 would be the looper and Jolly trolleys. Total of 40.
Total of 40, and those are all vehicles that are currently in service or about to be?
Yes, our vehicles, the 20 new trolleys, those are new, and the existing in-service vehicles that Jolly Trolley and Looper have.
Okay. As Jolly Trolley moves forward with their new vehicle purchases, which we talked about in their contract, do we know if they're going to be providing barriers as part of their purchases, or is that something we're going to be looking at doing in the future for them? That's a good question.
We will definitely work with Jolly Trolley. You know, the easiest way to install barriers or anything is at time of manufacture, so that's definitely something that we will work with them to incorporate into the bus bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Henry. Do you have something, Mr. Miller?
No, I thought that was a good suggestion.
I have
I'm
something.
gonna write that down.
Okay, we have Mr. Saraki, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to mention one thing. I don't know, I think, Josh, you might have been here. My very first PSTA meeting was when the newscast was here for these for what happened that day in Hillsborough County. This is a very important issue, and these are needed in the trolleys in all of our transportation systems. So I would like to, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, motion passes. Thank you, Henry, thank you, Al.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Now we move on to the item 3F, the Pinellas Park Stop Easement Agreement. We'll have Michael Hetrick lead us in
Too
this.
bad Commissioner Spiel's not here
Yeah, in this endeavor.
for this one, yeah.
Michael,
Yes, good morning.
good morning.
So good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Michael Hetrick, Assistant Project Manager in the Project Management Office. Today, I'm presenting for your consideration the approval of an easement agreement with the City of Pinellas Park. Psta currently operates a fixed route bus stop at 6044 Park Boulevard North on public right-of-way owned by the City of Pinellas Park. The city plans to deed this surplus right-of-way back to the adjacent property owners. However, they've given Psta the opportunity to receive a deed for an easement, approximately 6 feet by 15 feet, to construct future transit amenities as needed. Pinellas Park City Council approved this agreement on April 22nd of this year. We don't anticipate any fiscal impacts related to this easement agreement, and therefore I am recommending the approval of this easement agreement with the City of Pinellas Park to construct and maintain bus stop infrastructure in the future as needed. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Have any questions? Okay, Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So they approached us and said, hey, we have some land we want you to have, and we have no current designs to build anything at that location, just it's ours for the future use.
That's correct. A little history, the city of Pinellas Park, I believe, had constructed a unique street furnishing bench at this location. So there is a little bit of infrastructure already built out. Unfortunately, that transit asset or amenity was destroyed by a car accident. PSTA does not currently have plans to restore that at this time based on our current ridership demand. But we do have that location available to us to construct in the future if need be.
And so there's no contingencies on, we'll give you the land and we have to do something with it. It's
That's
just, here you
correct.
go, here you go.
The agreement is stipulated that's just for future transit amenities at the discretion of PSTA.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any more questions, discussion? Michael, I have a question. Where on the property is this located? I know where the station is itself. Where did we get this property on that location?
Could you clarify that?
Okay, I'm just wondering, the 6 by 15 area, where exactly is it at our bus station there?
Yeah, so it's where the existing infrastructure is. It's essentially 6 feet measured back from the back of the existing sidewalk, and then a 15-foot dimension parallel to the sidewalk at the current bus stop location.
Okay, so like on the east side, west side, north side?
Yeah, sorry, it's on the south side of Park Boulevard, so it's in the eastbound traveling direction for our bus routes.
Okay, I just want to see that. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure,
Sorry,
Jeff has a
I was
question.
a little slow on the draw there.
Go ahead.
Just for the new people on PSTA, how many stops does PSTA have that they own the easement there, that there's been this type of consideration from municipalities?
So this is something actually that hasn't been done traditionally in the past. We have executed very few easement agreements. Typically, they've been with private property owners when they do come about. So this is something that we've been venturing into as of late. We have made strides recently to get at the table with these individual municipalities, development review committees, so that as projects are developed, whether it be from private enterprise or even city developments, that PSTA has a seat at the table to discuss the transit needs and infrastructure requirements for our system. As we know, the public right-of-way in Pinellas County is quite limited, and so we've really made strides to accomplish getting a seat at the table and having these agreements come to fruition. But we have very few on file, and it's one of the only ways, whether it be property acquisition or these perpetual easement agreements, that PSTA can maintain our location of public right-of-way.
Well, thank you for pushing to have a seat at the table. That's incredibly important. My question then is, how often do we change bus route stop locations? And does the purchase of this easement or this that we have, and does that lock us into now a bus stop that may not be functional in the future? And how do we work that aspect?
So,
if I'm wording that correctly, if y'all understand.
Yeah, no, I just trying to think about the best way to answer your question. This is a fairly productive route. It's a long-standing route on Park Boulevard. There's no plans for any type of stop consolidations or rerouting of this particular route. There's Route 79. Again, there is no financial impact or fiscal impact. So this is just a free offering to PSTA as we have existing infrastructure. Furthermore, if we do decide to abandon this stop in the future, there'd be no impacts to PSTA or the adjacent property owners, as we would just remove any transit infrastructure that we had there and restore the property to pre-existing conditions.
Okay, so do we actually own this property then?
We will own the property. At the execution of this agreement, it would be recorded with the county clerk's office.
So if we decided to change this bus stop location, we can actually sell this 6 by 15 foot piece of property
theoretically,
I would
yes.
imagine that would be appropriate, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gow. So do we have a motion?
I do make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The motion passes. Thank you, Michael, for your information.
Thank you all.
Great.
Now we come to monthly reports, and we would start with Julie. Good morning.
Good
Julie.
morning, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Julie Lupus, Director of Accounting. In March, we anticipated a deficit of 3.8 million, but we ended up favorable to that by 2% or 79,000. It was driven by staff continuing to control expenses and coming in at 250,000 under budget. The effects of COVID-19 on purchase transportation services has also been a large factor in the favorable variance. For March year to date, we not only have a surplus, but are exceeding budgeted expectations by 12.5% or 3.3 million. Expense control and COVID effects are carrying this surplus, with salaries and fringes under budget 1.3 million and purchase transportation services under budget 1 million. I know that was short and quick, and I was trying to be timely, but does anyone have any questions?
Looking pretty good.
Any questions from the committee? Doesn't look like it. You're doing good work, and we appreciate it. So do we have a motion? Oh, we don't move. This is just an information. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Next, we would have Mr. Miller on
Yes.
ridership performance.
So the month of April was a fantastic month compared to April 2020 in the heart of the COVID time. So it's not really comparable, but ridership is substantially upped on all of our services from a year ago today. The other thing that's up, I'll just note, is the security incidents. As we come out of the pandemic, the number of mask arguments about wearing a mask while riding the bus is growing. Luckily, no severe issues, but we are seeing that. I've heard anecdotally that that's grown even more in just the last week or so. But it is still a federal policy that on all transportation through September, masks are required. So we're checked on that. So we're enforcing that. That's really the only downside that I see on the ridership report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brad. And speaking of ridership, remind us of our plan to reinstitute fares.
Okay, yes. I should also note that the mobility on demand ridership is growing by leaps and bounds, which is a really good thing. Our regular paratransit through CareRide has not dropped. It grew in the month of April. It tapered off a bit from an incredibly high March, but we believe that will keep growing until we reinstitute fares on July 5th. We're going to reinstitute all of our fares on on the 5th of July. That includes paratransit as well. So for the first time in a year, paratransit, we're going to, as some presentation I saw Bonnie give, we're going to make riding mobility on demand $3.50 versus, and then the regular paratransit $4.50. We're giving a $1 discount if you choose to ride on the other mobility programs, because those are lower cost to us, and we think that'll be an incentive. But we do think that ridership will go down once the fares are restored there.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll be launching Flamingo fares, so I've already downloaded my Flamingo fares mobile ticket on my phone, and the incentive that we're giving out, if you get the Flamingo app, or if you get a card, is you get July and August at no cost.
Oh.
Cassandra, who's popped up there, is going to give you a full detail, those who you are on the planning committee, in about
I saw that.
20 minutes,
I did-
all about that.
I did
So,
see that. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And thank you, Brad. And then our next and final report is from Debbie and Michael on our quarterly report. Debbie,
Thank
Michael?
you so much. Thank you so much, Chair Cox. This morning, I'm going to start out with discussing the health insurance report. And on this Zoom meeting, we have Liz O'Hara. She is our benefits manager. And she has done an absolutely amazing job during this whole pandemic, keeping us both focused on our mental and physical health. And we've done lots of webinars, we've done challenges, physical challenges, et cetera. And what Liz is doing is paying off because we are seeing that our costs are being contained. There's always going to be an exception with one claim that's very high, but overall we are doing very well. And what I'd like to do today is introduce you to Liz and have her present the health insurance report. Liz, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Debbie, and good morning, Board. As of the end of the second quarter, as you can see in your packet, our high deductible health plan is still the second most utilized plan. Our base plan is still obviously the most utilized plan, and our buy-up plan is coming in last. I'd like to just note that the base plan percentage of participants is at 58%, and the total cost of claims is at 56%. So it's coming in about the same rate. Meanwhile, our high deductible health plan has about 17% of our plan participants, and it takes up 31% of our cost. And I apologize, that's right. And then deductible has 25% of participants and only costs 13% to cost. Overall, PSTA is performing close to last year. It is important to note that our participants have been very consistent in seeking medical attention over the past year, and that helps to keep our costs low. Since we really didn't have any loss of work like a lot of other places, our essential employees definitely kept going to their medical appointments. I think you've probably all heard Debbie tell the example before of some previous employers that she's heard from where they've had examples of, somebody didn't go to their mammogram last year because of COVID. And then when they went this year, they found out they had stage 4 cancer, which would have been caught if they were able to go or they did go to their mammogram last year. So typically in Florida, the plan renewals the increases are about 7 to 9%. However, with that example I gave you, the insurance carriers are concerned that people putting off wellness visits will end up costing them more. But we have shown consistency in healthcare here at PSTA, and we're pleased to say that we are looking at a 5% increase for our renewal. In comparison, last year we had a 4.55% increase. And next month we will be presenting you with the action items on the health insurance renewal. Any questions?
Oh, thank you, Liz.
All right. Also in your packet, I think it's important to talk about is fuel, which, we've been under budget until the last couple months, and we are starting to creep up. We're still about $189,000 under budget. As you know, fuel costs have been skyrocketing. However, we've locked in about 2/3 of our fuel at or below budget. So it's something that we're looking at very carefully. I take a look at the NYMEX every day, and it's actually starting to go down just a little bit. And as even though we are not impacted by the ransom attack on the Colonial Pipeline, overall fuel costs have been going up. So it's something that we hope we can lock into at a more favorable rate. It'll definitely in the budget be going up from where it has been historically. If you recall, probably about 2 years ago, it went down as low as about 97 cents. Mm-hmm. So we all are taking this all into consideration as we're putting the budget together. I will let Michael take us away with the reserve reports and the investment reports. I'll turn it over to Michael.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. So in this month's packet, you'll see you have an investment report and our quarterly reserves report. What we had invested at the end of Q2 at March 31st, 2021 was approximately $61.9 million. Most of that was invested with Bank United through several money market accounts and certificates of deposit. The allocation of that $61.9 million, if you look at the reserves report, is about $159,000 in reserves category B, which is legally restricted funds, FTA restricted funds. $44.3 million in category C, which is made up of 2 months operating reserve, our estimated self-insurance reserve, and our capital reserve of about $25.6 million. The rest of the funds are to pay current year expenses throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. So with that, do you have any questions?
Mr. Shulman?
So I actually have a question going backwards. There was probably a shock I didn't have a health insurance question prior, so I want to make sure I don't leave anyone distraught. Really the question just around the HSA. I know, normally I like to ask about the participation rate for employees. Those that are in the high deductible health plan, are they putting money aside? Are they using those accounts, obviously to help cover their future healthcare costs?
We do, as you may recall, PSTA actually puts in money into the HSA for any of the employees that are going into the high deductible program. I don't know if Liz has any stats or off the top of her head how we are doing as far as adding additional money in. I can only speak for myself, which I do add additional money into that, but it's an encouragement.
I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, but I can tell you that the majority of employees that do have an HSA do put somewhere between $5 and then up into their HSA at this point.
Because when it comes to the insurance company looking at their risk in the high deductible health plan, that's mitigated by HSA balances. So, I would encourage having that information available so that when we're negotiating those rates, we're showing that our employees are prepared to take care of their healthcare costs and not necessarily deferring things. Of course, that's assuming they are.
Yeah.
Excellent point, Commissioner. Excellent point.
And I now fast forward back to the topic at hand.
Thank you. And I believe we're done with this report. Thank you all. Thank all of you. And we'll move on to any other business. Have we any other business, Mr. Miller, committee? Anybody?
I think we're good.
Well, then let's go.
Sorry, I just wanted to know if the new transit software could help Mr. Miller get here on time.
Oh, boy.
No. If I was eligible.
Oh,
okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That was the perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, the meeting's adjourned, so thank everyone. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Good job. So at 10:30, we will launch the public hearing. Our grant public hearing that we're required to have each year, and then we'll do the planning committee right after.
Gotcha. We're gonna move around now.